It's West Wednesdays on the Locked On Hornets podcast. We talk about another unfortunate loss for the Hornets, but a bright spot with James Bouknight playing well, and we debut straight fire or straight fizzle with one Wes Bryant. It's coming up today on the Locked On Hornets pod.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's a daily fantasy app made easy. So Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Check them out at prizepicks.com. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen, and thanks for listening on all sorts of platforms. Spotify, Apple, go to YouTube, check us out there. We've got plenty of things that you can check us out on, so we really appreciate all of your support. Also follow us on Twitter, Walker Mail, Doug Branson, LOH, show handle on Twitter at Locked On Hornets, and check out our guy, Wes Bryant, on Twitter, on the gram as well, at Wes Got Range. Wes, how you doing today, man?
What's going on, fellas? Glad to be back. West Wednesday in full effect.
It is in full effect, man. You're a popular dude. We got you from a late night last night on Charlotte Sports Live, Fox 46. Yeah. I'm going to be appearing on that next week, too. So we're trying to represent out here for the Locked On Hornets podcast, just a little bit.
You know.
Trying to do it. Hornets not really doing that last night, not really showing out against the Toronto Raptors. First quarter was brutal. Lack of defensive effort, transition buckets. Like, they didn't actually score a ton of fast break points. The Hornets actually beat them in that category. Yet I feel like they could have stopped those fast break points, and maybe there were some fast break points that didn't count necessarily in transition, but the Hornets defense was so bad it kind of felt like they were. Yeah. Let's get to the positive first. We like to focus on the positive here, at least sometimes on Locked On Hornets. And I want to talk about James Bouknight, because he's been brought up in a lot of potential trades. I've tried to trade him a couple of times for a Rashawn Holmes maybe, or a Miles Turner, even though he had a really good game against the Kings earlier this year. He had a pretty good one last night despite the loss against the Toronto Raptors. Attacking the rim, I think that's what his specialty is. It was coming out of UConn. I think it was on full display. Taking Pascal Siakam ISO and then finishing left side with the right hand, I thought that was really impressive. What did you see from the Rook, James Bouknight?
Yeah, man, I liked a lot of what I saw. One thing we do know that he can do is get buckets, and I think it would be insane to trade him right now. I think fans are getting so impatient with wanting to do something, but again, I asked last week, what is the goal? I mean, are you trying to win an NBA championship? Listen, I love the Hornets. It's great, but
looks like we may have to get Wes back on the line. I'm sure he'll pop back in here in a second.
Is he really that mad at me that he decided to exit because
it's because you tried to one up him. It's because you tried to one up him on the CSL hit. You know, he was so happy about his CSL. I think he's back.
Is that what it was? It was. I didn't know. So there was a couple. Look, Wes, I'm sorry that I didn't realize that trading James Bouknight was going to make you that mad. I didn't realize that I one-upped you with CSL going on there next week.
Yeah.
But I take it all back. Please continue with your Bouknight.
Okay. Yes, I was just saying, it's like, what is your goal? And it's like, for the Hornets, I mean, realistically, do you really think we're going to win an NBA championship this year or next year? Mm-hmm. You have to let the young talent develop. They got some guys that are showing that if they just get a little bit of time, they can really end up being some key pieces down the line, especially with the potential salary cap that you might be looking at down the line, having so many good players. When a kid like this shows you, because I'm all about, do you flash? Do you go down to the G League and dominate? And he does that. He's showing that he belongs at the NBA level. And then when he has gotten the minutes and the freedom to take some shots, he's giving you production in a couple games this year. So you see the potential that he has for your backcourt. So I think with him and Kai Jones both, you just have to give them some time. Hornets fans need to just relax and enjoy the process, so to speak, because as we established last week here, we're ahead of the curve as far as what people thought that they would be. So I think that they just need to calm down. Bouknight really looks like he has a lot of potential to be a bucket getter in this league. That's what it's all about. Yes, defense is great, but let's be honest. It's hard to stop guys just on a shutdown basis. You're not going to come out and hold people to 90 points every night. You want to be at least serviceable on defense, yes. But when you see a guy that can get score points like Bouknight can, and then you think about what you have with the LaMelo Ball and different things like that. He's also shown that he's a capable ball handler outside of LaMelo, so LaMelo doesn't have to always carry that burden. He's a playmaker. So, no, I like a lot from what we've seen from him, and I think he just needs time to continue to mature.
What I liked is that you really got a full menu of everything that Bouknight can give you scoring. I mean, he had the catch and shoot three, he had the cutting layup, he had the steal, helped to get the steal and got into transition for the layup. Crafty moves all around. Like Walker mentioned, bodied Pascal Siakam, physical layup even for his size. Just imagine what happens when he gets bigger. The other thing is that he does it on a night where the Hornets needed smart possessions. He gave Borrego smart possessions, and he did it on a night where Cody Martin sort of underwhelmed offensively. And I think Cody Martin is sort of the barrier for that Bouknight has been hitting up against in terms of getting more playing time. So I wonder if this game in particular may start to move Bouknight into that sort of Borrego circle of trust that allows him to get more playing time.
Yeah, hopefully it will, because I think with JB, the number one thing he wants is for guys to at least be able to play defense a little bit. And I think that's probably the reason why Bouknight was having such a tough time getting on the court earlier in the season, because I think he hated, and you would see it sometimes when he would come in and even in, garbage time, you could say, or whatnot, he would get a little lost on defense sometimes. Didn't always seem like he knew what to do. And also offensively, he didn't seem as sure of himself in a lot of times now. But I think that, what was it, the Kings game when he had the good game? Yeah. So the Kings game, I think, gave him the confidence where he knew, okay, I belong in this league as far as an offensive player goes. And we know, I talk to Dale all the time in our meetings and stuff like that, Dale Curry, and he tells me how much this league is about confidence with guys and how good they feel about, can they make shots, can they score, can they do this, that, and the third. Because he told me, he said, when the lights come on for a lot of guys, it's a different story. So he's shown that. So what were you saying?
And let's be honest, like, it wasn't Bouknight's defense that was the problem in this game.
Exactly.
I mean, it was first quarter. It was the starters' first quarter defense. It was Terry late on a closeout. It was LaMelo leaving his guy and leaving Gary Trent open for a three in the third quarter that got him started. It was some just disorganization with the zone. I mean, they killed that zone.
They
in
were
the first
completely
quarter.
lost, man. Like that. Yeah. You go back and watch it in transition. There were a couple of times where they were completely lost. Even just getting set, you had one play where Delano Banton gets the basketball. This was in the second half. This was in the third quarter when the Hornets were trying to hang around a little bit. So it was a big bucket that they allowed, and just a complete mental breakdown where Cody Martin is on a different player. I forget who he is, who's on, but Terry Rozier's guarding the ball, who Blanton has it. He just drives to the left. Terry tries to pass him over to Cody. Cody doesn't pick him up, and then Banton goes in for the dunk. That kind of stuff happens, a little too frequently throughout the year. It had stopped a little bit the last couple of weeks, right, when they played a lot better and had a better defensive rating than anybody in the NBA.
Right.
But you see that a decent amount. And real quickly, you talk about Bouknight. That's the thing about Bouknight. It's not like he was a bad defender coming out, Like he was pretty good at UConn. And I go back to that one possession. I'll bring this up a couple more times. It's so apparent in my mind. But that game against Utah, where Bouknight got some minutes and he completely locked down Jordan Clarkson, a pretty good ISO player too, 6th Man of the Year candidate just last year, right? Like, Bouknight did a really good job of cutting off baseline. He's got some defensive instincts and certainly has the athleticism to be a problem on that end. And we know about the offensive prowess. Like, I like Bouknight. The only reason I've hypothesized maybe trading him is
here we go.
Right. I'm just saying. But, like, Rashawn Holmes, like, those guys certainly fill a need. But there's no doubt, like, it would hurt. Like, I like his game enough and certainly like him even better than I did during the draft process.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were about to say something, Doug. My bad.
No, it's all good. I mean, look, I'm just, all I'm saying is that from the fans' perspective, I'm talking from the fans' perspective, they're looking at James Bouknight's lack of minutes, and then someone tells them, well, it's because Cody Martin plays better defense, or they need more defense. And then you look at a game like this and you go, wait a minute, nobody's playing defense.
Right.
So
yeah.
So I think either the starters got to step up and start playing defense and defend their abilities to stay in the starting lineup or stay with heavy minutes, or Borrego has to look for other options off the bench, including Bouknight.
All right, I want to talk about P.J. Washington's ejection, whether it was the right call, whether it was the wrong call, and then I want to get to Wes Bryant mixing it up with a couple of athletes on the football field. We'll get to that next segment. Also, LaMelo Ball. He was somebody that kind of broke out of his offensive slump, not necessarily a shooting slump, but did play well offensively last night. We'll get to all of that in the second segment, but not before we talk about Prize Picks. It has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. They offer more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator, and they offer all the superstar players as well as the bench players only recording just a handful of minutes each game. They also offer any prop you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes made, etc., even just with a couple of 2 players that you might choose, 5 players that you might choose, pick an over-under. It doesn't matter. Go to prizepicks.com today or go to your app store and download the app. All users that deposit and use promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first Prize Pick entry scores a single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Let's talk about Wes Bryant's days on the football field. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are listening to the Locked On Hornets podcast.
And Doug, don't you have an Eldon Campbell stuffed animal type thing?
Yes, I do. I got it at the last regular season home game that they had before they left for New Orleans.
I love me some Eldon Campbell, but is that the guy?
They were clearing everything out of the house because it was whatever they gave to the fans that night, they didn't have to take with them to New Orleans.
Get more Hornets analysis on LockedOnHornets.com.